Hello, friends. Well, last weekend was certainly an exciting weekend for me. I had the great fortune to attend the 2024 Company of St. George Potty Arms, this year celebrating John II Lemaine, also known as Boucicaut. It was a pretty fun event. It was a little different from the previous year's Potty Arms in that it was pretty highly themed and structured. We had several different rounds, which were themed after different events or parts of Boucicaut's life, involved um, just different activities, as well as an obstacle course, which were representing many of the physical prowess practices, exercise practices that Boucicaut documents and that he was well known for. Things like climbing across ladders in armor, or walking balance beams and shooting crossbows at targets, all while in armor. Um, I did a few of the events, but some things are just beyond my capability these days. That said, um, I started the event attending as an errant in the Company of St. George. An errant is someone who has declared that they wish to walk the path of companionship in the company, and that includes roughly some measure of gaining renown, not just within the company, but throughout other events. Things like HEMA Blossfechten, which is like normal HEMA tournament stuff, Harness Fechten, which is armored fighting. You can also work within other organizations like the SCA or the EMP, Empire of Medieval Pursuits, also the various armored combat leagues like ACL, HMB, Buhurt, Battle of the Nations, those kinds of things. I also have other combative sports like judo and BJJ, in which I've done some training, but I haven't started participating in tournaments as of yet. I'm still very new at those things. So there's lots of mechanisms, lots of opportunities. And for me, this past year, since October of 2023 through October of 2024, I took on a challenge led by my good friend Gene Arnold, also known as Arthur, and his son Julian, called the Oath of the Plume d'Or, the Golden Plume or Golden Feather. Now, this oath was to do 12 different martial deeds of arms within the period between the 2023 and 2024 Potty Arms. So there was no particular restriction or specification for what a deed of arms would be considered. It was largely a personal choice of anything that you considered to be some form of armored combat or combat in general. So I did things like I'd say the least impressive thing I did was to dress up in my entire harness and stand around and help hark people towards demonstrations being done by the local Bohurt group at a castle in Helen, Georgia. Now I spent all day in armor, crying out, nice, safe, clean, consensual violence this away, and harking people that way, answer plenty of questions. For me, that's kind of on the edge of being a demonstration, but I was in armor for roughly 6 to 8 hours, and I stood there, walked around, interacted with the crowd. Um, didn't do a lot of fighting or any combat, but there wasn't much to be had. Did try to get in a fight with a couple people, challenge them to fights, and one guy paid me off because he was paying off all the guards to avoid fights, which I thought was just flatly hilarious. Later bought a hat from him at the Helen Hat Shop. Other things included demonstrations, things like MomoCon. We do an armored demonstration. My group did a demonstration at the Mabel House in Mableton, Georgia for a kids camp. Did plenty of tournaments. On the Blossfechten side, I certainly did the Warriors of Ash put on a Celtic Fest um, in February. That's an event I've really enjoyed doing, though I hear it may not be coming back for various reasons, even those beyond Helene. Um, Also, of course, Surfo, which is a standard, very large Hemobloss tournament here in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's always there. Missed a couple, but things like that. And then on the harness side, I did Deer the Swan out in Kansas City, Kansas, as well as the mini deed at WMAW, and things like Yeehaw in Huntsville, Alabama. So I've been up to plenty. For certain, I passed the 12 deeds that were expected of me. Quite a number more. Quite a few I wasn't able to get to for various reasons, and life happens. So this year, I entered the Potty Arms as an errant, and I emerged as what they're calling a companion elect, meaning if everything goes well and I continue living up to the promise that everyone expects of me. At the 2025 Potty Arms, I may be elected as a companion and asked to join the ranks of the existing companions. This year, we also added a companion, Stan, Sir Stanton to some. He was added among the ranks of them. And I think it's well and good that I was not asked to be a companion and to override or stand in front of his celebration, for he certainly deserves it. Stan is very capable and very well known within the armored fighting communities, and cuts a nice figure. Lots of renown on his part. As part of introducing this idea to the rest of the assembled company and our errands and other guests and folks who were present at our feast, many people stood up and said very nice things about me, and I wish to a moment to say thank you. Sometimes I deflect or I find it difficult to accept praise. The thing that helps me with that is to remind myself that these are friends, and these are people I trust, and these are people whose opinion of me, good or bad, I take to heart. So when they give me their opinion, I should listen. And when it's praise, I should accept it. When it's criticism, constructive, most likely, I should take it to heart and work on things. So when my friends stand up, and say that they're hearing good things from me, even beyond the company, from other people they know, that I'm doing well, I'm on the path, I've exceeded expectations, and I'm meeting the challenges that they've set forth and they want to see me accomplish, that I'm living up to those standards. And I got a lot of that feedback. And that was gratifying. To say that my cup overfloweth is too light a way to say it. I kind of lack the words to express just the overwhelming sense of feelings I felt in that moment. I believe I talked to most of the companions and most of my friends who stood up and talked to me and thanked them in person. If I did not, thank you for speaking up for me or saying nice things on my behalf. My apologies for not doing so in person, but please allow me this moment to say thank you with much gratitude and much grace for having the gift of your friendship and having you think well of me. I certainly think well of you, each of the companions, each of the errants, and all the people who are on that field. This is a kind of odd hobby. None of us are actually going to fight medieval wars. We're not actually going to use swords and spears and bows and axes and other implements of war against each other or against other people. We don't hate each other. We may separate the field into different sides, but at the end of the day, every fight ends with a hug. And it's one of the most gratifying activities that you can find a person in the modern day doing. This fraternity of arms. And, folks in other martial sports, combative sports, they all say similar things. Now, some, the sport aspect of I'm trying to win and I don't care about you, it takes over in some other places. I'm thinking more of like the BJJs and the judos, where some of that sportsmanship kind of takes a back seat, I think, at times. I don't see that in the harness fighting community. I see it even in the HEMA community. I don't see that kind of combativeness after the fight being very prevalent. It does on occasion. And for certain, not everyone's going to be as, let's say, friendly after a fight, but most people are, by and large, and that has been my experience in doing this for 8.5 years. It has been my experience all year long. Every fight I did on any field, on any sport that I participated in, ended in a hug. And that's to say, we came together, we fought our hearts out, we worked our butts off, and at the end of the day, we're friends, and we congratulate each other, whoever won, whoever lost. We congratulated each other and said, good job. It was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And we mourn the fights that we don't get to have because there's just never enough time, there's never enough energy, and everyone wants to fight everyone. So it's an odd little hobby. But it's a hobby that I think speaks well to the people that pursue it. Because it's hard to find people who what's the best way to say this? It's hard to find that fraternity as an adult. Doing something as difficult and punishing your body as much as this sport requires and all the other related sports. We're all working hard, and we're all at different stages of that work, and we're all at different stages of what it means to present ourselves through that work. But we're all working hard. And I can't do the things that I do, and I can't achieve the renown and the congratulations and the high praise that I've received without each and every single person who worked with me to be here. I don't win every fight. I don't win most fights. But pretty much every person I fight says they enjoyed the fight and they'd want to fight me again. Every event I've been to, I've tried to be helpful. I've tried to do something above and beyond just being there to fight and leave. Whether that's just taking video and uploading it and making sure people who were in the videos get tagged appropriately. That's one thing I do at, say, Surfo, and I've done at other events. And I've found that it wins me more friends, that, people kind of want to have footage of their fights. So it's allowed me a certain access, or at least a certain, let's say, reputation, so that people come up to me and talk to me, get to know me. That's part of my networking strategy. As well, at this latest PAW, I did several things behind the scenes just to kind of help move some things along. Don't need to talk about all of them. Don't need congratulations for any of them. It's just what you do. You chip in, you do something. And I think that's part of the path too. You see a need, you fill a need. So, where does this leave me? This means, I think the word that is used most accurately within the company to describe what errants are expected to do and what companions are expected to uphold is the word path. There's a fantasy series by, if you're unfamiliar with him, Brandon Sanderson, called the Stormlight Archives. In the Stormlight Archives, there are these magical knight-like figures, and they have to take oaths, and these oaths are sort of magically binding contracts which bind magic spirits to them, and they get all these powers. Well, the part of the oath that has always stuck with me since I first started reading those novels, long time ago. I don't remember when the first one was published, but it was several years ago. Journey before destination. The idea that we are always on a journey. That these things that we do, this hobby in which we're engaged, this thing that we do outside of our daily lives, that we join with other people in common interest, and we walk this journey. This journey, we hope, never ends. Unfortunately, it will, for all of us, one day end, voluntarily or otherwise. We'll no longer be on this journey. So what we carry with us on this journey is the promise of passing on what we learn, of bringing other people along the journey with us in the hopes that they continue it, that the journey overall never ends, even if all of us reach a destination where we cannot continue. And we all will, eventually. But the journey in of itself is that continuation of the renewal, of bringing more people forward, of uplifting people, helping them gain the renown, helping them find their place, helping them see these glimpses into what life could be. And I speak of life. Much of what we do is on the recreation of how life may have been for some of our ancestors. We're looking at history and trying to interpret and reenact and recreate what some of that was. Now, we can talk about physical culture, and we can talk about athletic, martial culture and how they made war and, did all kinds of horrible things to each other. But at the end of the day, when we talk about chivalry, this is also about how they behaved with each other, how they interacted, how they thought about friendship and companionship, and how they thought about interacting with people in foreign lands and other places who believed other things or served other lords, but could still interact, could still parlay, could still talk. And I think there's lessons to be learned there. Because when you step on that field and you pick up a weapon simulator in front of me and I pick up mine and we clash, there are no other differences. There is the moment. And when we finish, someone has won, someone has lost. We may not record it. We may. We hug it out and we say good fight. And in that moment, we've resolved not to let all the things, the differences, and all the other things that can get in between interpersonal relationships, we've put it aside. And we have this connection, these moments, to give us a way to keep that stuff to the side and just treat each other as people. And ultimately, that's what this journey is it's finding other people that we can treat as people and as equals and as peers and as people to admire and people to uphold to certain ideals. No one ever lives up to every ideal, permanently and forever. But we have the ideals and we can, sort of measure ourselves against them. And for a little bit, we can forget all the other things, all the other distractions, all the other ways that the modern world seeks to divide us and seeks to prevent this kind of human interaction and relationship. So it's the journey. And in my own reflection, this idea that maybe next year I'll be a companion, that's not a destination. That's a waypoint along the journey. As a companion, my job is no longer to necessarily impress the other companions, but I'm still out there to earn renown. I'm still out there to uplift other people. I'm still out there to help other people on the journey and to see that the journey continues. So many things don't change for me. In fact, I would say most things that I do in my personality and such will not change. I'm still going to be out there doing events. I may not do, 14, 15 events every year, but even before this, I was doing 8 or 10, and those kinds of things will continue. So, in short, whatever praise I received, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the many kind words. Thank you for the companionship. I could not be here considering this idea that I'll be a companion without all the other people who've been there for me and with me. For the other errants, your day will come. Journey before destination. You're on the journey. You're on the path. As I understand it, many of you had good conversations with companions to talk about specific actions or specific things that they would like to see coming from you in the future. You have the time. The path is still there. We're still walking it together, and I'll do anything and everything that I can to facilitate your elevation. And it's not a set deal for me either. There are things that I must still do. I must still continue walking the path. So, I'll see you on the journey. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, everyone. I definitely felt uplifted and special and barely able to process what was going on. It's taken me several days just to believe I have the words to describe how I felt. And I still don't think the words do it justice. It was truly special to me to have that many people say that many nice and congratulatory things for me. Because I don't see this entire year as being just hard work. It was a lot of fun. And I truly did seek out ways to be able to work with companions, as many as I could get a hold of and find time to spend with. Not to brown nose or, build some kind of nefarious bond, but to build relationships and to have those experiences. I would say to the errants and to other people who want to walk a similar path, when opportunities are presented, say yes. One opportunity I'll speak in specifically was Gulf Wars. I talked to Gene last year. He and Julian had gone to Pensick up in Pennsylvania in 2022, and I had mentioned that, hey, I'd really like to go to an event like that. Regardless of how else I participate in the SCA, one of the very impressive things is they can put a few hundred people in a field or a few thousand in some events, and it's hard to replicate that scale of an activity where you have thousands or hundreds of people, you know, all simulating a battle all at once. There's just nowhere else in the United States to see something quite like that. So I'd like to see it. So Gene recommended that instead of Pinsic, which was a little far to get to, very expensive, a little difficult, Gulf Wars might be an easier target. And I said, okay. And I went with Gene, and he helped guide me and showed me kind of the ropes, and I did a little bit of fighting, and as much as I necessarily should have or could have or would have, but I did some. And then the weather stopped cooperating, so we broke camp early. But events like that, opportunities like that. Sam hyped up Deed of the Swan in Kansas City, and I met a few of the other people involved, and I really wanted to go out there and see it, so I made sure to do it. So when the opportunity presents itself, journey before destination. Say yes, go on the journey. Of course, so for long as you can afford it and it's possible. You know, don't necessarily put yourself in a huge amount of debt to go do it, but certainly say yes as often and as frequently as you can. So maybe I'm done rambling now, but again, to all my friends, all the friends that I'll meet along the way, thank you. Again, I can't do any of this or have any of this renown without people working with me and people cheering me on and wishing me well. And for all of you, thank you. Thank you.